My dear student, today we are going to discuss on the topic trafficking of women and children. Human greed is unlimited and illimitable unless he changes himself according to the principle of morality. Man does many things which are immoral and illegal under the influence of such endless greed. Trafficking in human beings, particularly women and child trafficking, is one of the most growing profitable illegal trades in the world. Human trafficking is an international crime. International community under the aegis of United Nations made constant effort for preventing and combating human trafficking. The World Organization has adopted conventions and protocols in order to combat and to prevent human trafficking. Human trafficking is also a serious form of violation of human rights that affects almost all countries of the world. It is also a major concern of all countries of the world, including India. Despite various enactments, general penal laws and specific laws for preventing and combating trafficking in human beings, the northeastern states of India emerged as a hotspot zone of women and child trafficking. The issues of armed conflict, ethnic conflict, displacement, underdevelopment, lack of opportunity for employment and for quality education, ignorance and illiteracy are some of the major factors for becoming the region as the hotbed of women and child trafficking. Dynamics of trafficking. Trafficking in human beings is treated as a contemporary form of slavery. It is a growing phenomenon in the world. The reason for increasing it is multiple and complex, which also affects rich and poor countries alike. Poverty, increasing trend of migration, even within the country, lack of economic opportunity are some of the major pushing factors for women and child trafficking. The problem of commercial sex workers, urbanization, globalization, demands for cheap labor, current trend of consumerism are some of the important pull factors for trafficking in human beings. The United Nations Global Report on Trafficking in Person observed that there are three distinct elements in the crime of human trafficking, that is, the act, the means, and the purpose. Broadly speaking, the act means the recruitment, transport, harboring, or receipt of persons intended for trafficking, whereas the means refer to the threat or use of force, deception, or abuse of power used to lure the victims. The purpose is the form of exploitations including prostitution, sexual exploitation, forced labor, slavery, or similar practices, removal of organs, and other types of exploitation. The report shows that women and children are the two most frequently reported groups of trafficked persons. India has been a source, destination, and the transit country for human trafficking, primarily for the purpose of commercial sexual exploitation and forced labor. Poverty, lack of employment opportunity, illiteracy, underdevelopment, and banned cultural practices are the major factor for women and child trafficking in India. According to National Crime Records Bureau, Andhra Pradesh is on the top in the occurrence of the cases of human trafficking by registering 605 cases under various provisions of law relating to human trafficking. Assam is on the top among the northeastern states of India by registering a total of 165 cases of human trafficking. Government of Manipur reported that a total of 379 children were rescued from different parts of the country during the year 2008 to 2012. Many cases of child trafficking have also been reported in local Delhis of northeastern states of India in general and Manipur in particular. International measures for combating women and child trafficking. Women and child trafficking is an international crime as well as a serious form of human rights violation. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the Universal Declaration on Human Rights 1948 to set an international standard and the norms for promotion and protection of human rights in the world. The UN has also adopted various human rights conventions for promotion and protection of the rights of vulnerable groups of people. The reason for adoption of such convention is that these vulnerable groups, including women and the children, need extra care and protection because of their status and position in the society. The UN General Assembly adopted the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women in 1979 with an objective to improve the situation of women in the world. Article 6 of the Convention obligates the state parties to take all appropriate measures, including enactment of legislation to suppress all forms of traffic in women and exploitation of prostitution of women. India has signed the said convention on 30th July 1980 and ratified on 9th July 1993. Children are the most vulnerable section of society. They need special care and assistance for their physical, mental and psychological growth and development to become a responsible human being. Realizing such facts, the United Nations adopted the Convention on the Rights of Child 1989 for protection and the promotion of child rights. Article 35 of the Convention stipulates that state parties shall take all appropriate national, bilateral and multilateral measures to prevent the abduction of, the sale of or traffic in children for any purpose or in any form. The Convention has been supplemented by two other optional protocols adopted in 2000. The second optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of Child on sale of children, child prostitution and child pornography obligates the state parties to prohibit such act by making it as offense punishable under law. As state parties to these conventions, India has to fulfill the international obligation by implementing the provisions of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women 1979 and the CRC 1989 and its optional protocols under international law and practice. The United Nations Convention Against Trans-Organized Crime, adopted by the General Assembly in 2002, is the main international instrument in the fight against trans-organized crime. It has been supplemented by three optional protocols, including Protocol to Prevent, Suppress and Punish Trafficking in Person, especially Women and Children 2002. Two important purposes of the protocol are: number one, to prevent and combat trafficking in persons, paying particular attention to women and children. Number two, to protect and assist the victims of such trafficking with full respect for their human rights. The Article 3 of the protocol defines trafficking in person as the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring or receipt of person by means of threat or use of force or other form of coercion or abduction, of fraud, of deception, of the abuse of power or of a position of vulnerability or of saving or receiving of payments or benefits to achieve the consent of the person having control over another person for the purpose of exploitation of prostitution or other form of sexual exploitation. It further states that exploitation shall include at the minimum the exploitation, the prostitution of others or other form of sexual exploitations. Forced labor, slavery or practices similar to slavery, servitude or the removal of organs. The United Nations has created its own monitoring and investigating mechanism for promotion and protection of human rights. The UN Special Rapporteur on Human Trafficking, Special Rapporteur on Sale on Children, Child Pornography, Special Rapporteur on Contemporary Form of Slavery, and the Special Rapporteur on Human Rights of Migrant Workers received the information that an estimate of 70,000 bonded child labor from Nepal and Bangladesh work at the so-called red mines of Jayantia Hills of Meghalaya, located in the northeastern states of India. The special rapporteurs sought clarification from the government of India and requested information on the investigation about the matter. National measures for combating women and child trafficking. Constitution is the fundamental law of the land. It expresses hope, aspiration and the ideals of the people of the country. Part 3 of the Constitution of India embodies fundamental rights which are considered as the conscience of it. Article 23 of the Constitution prohibits trafficking in human beings and other similar forms of forced labor and pronounces that such acts are offences punishable in accordance with law. Article 24 of the Constitution provides that no child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or mine or engage in any other hazardous employment. The directive principle of state policy contained in the Part 4 of the Constitution of India plays the major role in the formulation of state policy. The directive principle of state policy envisages the socio-economic rights of the citizens of India. Article 39 of the Constitution directs the state to formulate suitable policies for protection and promotion of health and the strength of laborers and workers, women and tender age children. Legislation is the pronouncement of legal rules by competent authority of the state. Indian Penal Code 1860 contains dozens of provisions dealing with prevention and prohibition of women and child trafficking, and such provisions also imposes criminal penalties for commission of such offences like kidnapping, abduction, buying or selling a person for slavery, or buying and selling minor for prostitution. Section 366 of IPC provides that whoever induces any woman to go from any place with the intent that she may likely be or knowing that she will be forced or seduced to illicit intercourse with another person shall be punishable with imprisonment of either description for a term which may extend to 10 years and shall also be liable to fine. Further, Section 372 of IPC 1860 prohibits selling of minor for the purpose of prostitution, and Section 376 criminalizes the act of buying minor for the purpose of prostitution. Importation of any girl under the age of 21 years of age to India from outside India is also penal offence under the Indian Penal Code. The Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956 is one of the main legislations enacted by the Parliament for preventing and combating trafficking in human beings in India. The prime objective of the Act is to abolish trafficking in women and girls for the purpose of prostitution as an organized means of living. The Act criminalizes procurers, traffickers, and the profiteers of the trade, but in no way defines trafficking per se in human beings. The maximum punishment that may be inflicted to the offenders under the Immoral Traffic Prevention Act 1956 is rigorous imprisonment for a term not less than 7 years and not more than 14 years. In addition to this act, there are also some acts which aim to address the issues of human trafficking in India, such as Prohibition of Child Marriage Act 2006, Young Person Harmful Publication Act 1956, Bonded Labor System Abolition Act 1976, Indecent Representation of Women Prohibition Act 1986, and the Transplantation of Human Organs Act 1994. The Supreme Court has been found proactive, especially the cases involving the genuine concern of the poor and the helpless masses of the country. Judiciary has actively engaged in translating the fundamental rights of citizens into reality, more particularly after the declaration of national emergency in 1975. In Visaljit versus Union of India, the Supreme Court directed the government to ensure care, protection, development, treatment and the rehabilitation of victims of commercial sexual exploitation and to set up a central advisory committee in this regard. The central government was further directed by the court to look into the inadequacies of the law system and the institution relating to prevention and prohibition of trafficking in India. In pursuance of the judgment of the Supreme Court, the state government have also established state advisory committees. The Ministry of Women and Child Development, Government of India, has also formulated a protocol for pre-rescue, rescue and post-rescue operation of child victim of trafficking for commercial sexual exploitation in 2005. This protocol contains guidelines for state governments and it also provides for the strategy for rescue team members for the pre-rescue and post-rescue operation concerning children who are victim of trafficking and found to be sexually exploited for commercial reasons. Conclusion. The development of human society is solely determined by the degree of respect for life and the dignity of human beings. Women and child trafficking is a serious form of human rights violation and is also a crime. The United Nations has adopted general as well as specific international conventions for preventing and combating trafficking in person, particularly women and child trafficking. The Government of India has also seriously dealt with the problem of women and child trafficking by enacting special laws which have also been supplemented by general criminal laws that prohibits any form of human trafficking. Judiciary has entertained many public interest litigations filed by public-spirited persons on the plight of traffic victims and also directed the concerned government to take up measures like setting up the advisory committee for preventing and combating human trafficking. However, The problem of trafficking in human beings remain a concern of India, particularly for the northeastern states of the country. The government needs to amend the existing laws relating to human trafficking, and at the same time, she has to enact new laws in matching with the provisions of international conventions to which India has acceded to so far. It is also true that traffickers often take due advantage over the innocent, illiteracy, lack of opportunity for job and education, lack of information, among others, of the victims. So, such vulnerable groups are to be well informed and educated about the causes and consequences of human trafficking so that they can save themselves from the prey of the traffickers.